Good Wednesday, everyone. I'm Cyrus Webb, and welcome to Conversation Daily News. Glad you all could be with us, and welcome to November. Of course, you have your news headlines coming up on this hump day. Have a message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By, and in today's Entertainment Spotlight, you're part of my conversation with Master G of the Sugarhill Gang, talking about their success and, of course, the history of hip-hop. Enjoy today's broadcast. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with their Wednesday headlines. In international news, Israeli airstrikes level apartments in Gaza refugee camp as ground troops battle Hamas militants. A flurry of Israeli airstrikes Tuesday on a refugee camp near Gaza City leveled apartment buildings, leaving craters where they once stood as ground troops battled Hamas militants across northern Gaza and attacked underground compounds. Buoyed by the first successful rescue of a captive held by Hamas, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu rejected calls for a ceasefire and again vowed to crush Hamas' ability to govern Gaza or threaten Israel following its bloody October 7th rampage, which ignited the war. Several 100,000 Palestinians remain in the northern part of Gaza, where Israeli troops and tanks reportedly have advanced on several sides of Gaza City, the sprawling urban center. In one refugee camp on Gaza City's outskirts, at least 6 airstrikes destroyed a number of apartment blocks in a residential area, the Hamas-run Interior Ministry said. It reported a large number of casualties, but did not immediately provide details. Footage of the scene from Al Jazeera TV showed at least 4 large craters where buildings once stood amid a large swath of rubble surrounded by partially collapsed structures. Dozens of rescue workers and bystanders dug through the wreckage, searching for survivors beneath the pancake buildings. A group of young men pulled 2 children from the upper floors of a damaged apartment block, cradling them as they climbed down. More than half the territory's 2.3 million Palestinians have fled their homes, with hundreds of thousands sheltering in packed UN-run schools turned shelters or in hospitals alongside thousands of wounded patients. Israeli strikes have hit closer to southern northern hospitals in recent days, alarming medics. Thousands of people broke into aid warehouses over the weekend to take food, as supplies of basic goods have dwindled because of the Israeli siege. There has been no central electricity in Gaza for weeks, and Israel has barred the entry of fuel needed to power emergency generators for hospitals and homes. The war has also threatened to ignite fighting on other fronts. Israel and Lebanon's Hezbollah militant group have traded fire daily along the border, and Israel and the U.S. have struck targets in Syria linked to Iran, which supports Hamas, Hezbollah, and other armed groups in the region. In national news, U.S. wages rose at a solid pace this summer, posing challenge for Fed's inflation fight. Wages and benefits grew at a slightly faster pace in the July-September period than the previous 3 months, a benefit for workers, but a trend that also represents a risk to the Fed Reserve's fight against inflation. Compensation, as measured by the Employment Cost Index, increased 1.1% in the third quarter, up from a 1% rise in the April-June quarter, the Labor Department said on Tuesday. Compared with a year ago, compensation growth slowed to 4.3% from 4.5% in the second quarter. Adjusted for inflation, total compensation rose 0.6% in the third quarter compared with a year earlier, but slower than the second quarter increase of 1.6%. By some measures, average pay cooled, economists pointed out. Wages and salaries for private sector workers, excluding those who receive bonuses and other incentive pay, rose 0.9% in the third quarter, down from 1.1% in the previous period. In more national news, Henry Winkler grapples with the funds and dyslexia in his entertaining new memoir. Henry Winkler's autobiography begins on a Tuesday morning in October 1973. At his first audition for Happy Days, he was almost 28, quite a bit old for a high schooler, and struggling with something he didn't know had a name. Being Henry, The Funds and Beyond, released Tuesday, is a breezy, inspirational story of one of Hollywood's most beloved figures who became an unlikely TV screen icon and later a champion for those with dyslexia. Winkler's 245-page book charts his course chronologically from the Fonz to Barry and the frustrating follow periods in between, painting a portrait of a man trying to overcome a bitter, loveless childhood and a disability that made reading impossibly hard and simply trying to become a better man. I was in my mind always a little boy, he writes. My real self was like a kernel of corn, sheathed in yards of concrete, as insulated as the nuclear material at Chernobyl. And finally, in business news, Wall Street headed for a third straight losing month. Wall Street drifted Tuesday following some mixed earnings reports from big companies. The S&P 500 was 0.1% higher in afternoon trading on Tuesday, a day after clawing back a big chunk of its loss for October. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was up 9 points, or less than 0.1%, and the Nasdaq Composite was virtually unchanged. All three indexes were bouncing between small gains and losses. Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. It's on time for a message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By. Enjoy. Good Wednesday, everyone. I'm Cyrus Webb, and welcome to Words I Choose to Live By. Ready for your Wednesday wake-up call? A vision is only the start. You have to put in the work for your vision to become a reality. So let's get to it. Have an amazing hump day. Master G of the Sugarhill Gang, join me on Conversations Live in today's Entertainment Spotlight. Stay with us. You're listening to Conversations Daily News. For Conversations Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with the Entertainment Spotlight. Master G of the Sugarhill Gang, join me on Conversations Live, the radio show, to talk about the group's extraordinary success and contribution to hip-hop. It's a bit of a conversation.
Master G, great to have you back on the program. Thanks for the time.
Cyrus, you know it's an honor, man. Like you said, we've been trying to put this thing together for a bit, so I'm glad I could finally cool my jets to that.
Well, look, man, it's hard to believe it was June 2013 the last time you appeared with us, Master G. You were at the time talking about the documentary that kind of chronicled a bit of your own story. Now here we are in 2023, of course, hip-hop celebrating its 50th anniversary. What has it been like for you, Master G, to think about you and your own impact on hip-hop?
So the thing that continually blows my mind is that I have to kind of wake up to the fact that this thing is a global phenomenon. That it's like a steam train. It just keeps on going. And there are people in the planet right now that don't even imagine the world without hip hop. And the crazy thing about that is, I know what it's like to be just me, Mike, and Hank. You know, and to be that person, to be the one that was like the first person on stage in Paris, you know what I mean? And now for it to be like there's no place on the planet on a movie, this thing is, you know, out, it continually keeps on like pulling my wig back, because it's like, man, it's unreal. It's like, you know, starting a business, like probably Bill Gates looking at what happened when he did Apple, you know what I mean? Like, or Steve Jobs or somebody like that, you know, to look at what your, you know, creation and your input has been on the world's, blueprint.
Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. We thank you all for tuning in to this edition of Conversations Daily News. But let's get on tomorrow with more news, message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By, and of course your entertainment spotlight. Until then, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Daily News today. Now let's go make today amazing. Take care.